This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.
Barry and Suzanne Morphew. They looked like any other Colorado couple from the outside. I mean, nothing strange to see here. Outdoorsy, church-going, husband and wife. Business-minded. Raising two teenage daughters. But peel back the layers and the picture gets murky real fast. Suzanne disappears on Mother's Day in 2020, and Barry tells the world she went for a bike ride and never came home. No blood, no wreckage, no panic, just a conveniently placed bicycle off a trail. A husband who says he was busy shooting chipmunks. And surveillance video that later shows him dumping trash in multiple dumpsters while his wife was supposedly missing. It was weird then, and it's weirder now. In 2023, Suzanne's remains were discovered in a shallow grave 45 miles from their home. And what forensics revealed was chilling. Her bones tested positive for BAM, a rare veterinary tranquilizer cocktail. Not exactly something you'd find at, CVS. Turns out Barry had previously used BAM while deer farming in Indiana. In fact, he was the only private person in the region known to have ever purchased it. And suddenly, this wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. It was a chemical murder mystery with digital breadcrumbs, suspicious scratches, and a final message from Suzanne that read, "I'm done." Psychologically, this case is a powder keg. It touches everything from trauma bonding and coercive control to gaslighting, weaponized intimacy, and how people mask matrimony, and how they mask a monstrosity at the same time behind Midwestern charm. So today, we're breaking it all down with psychotherapist and author Shavaun Scott, from the toxic dynamic between Barry and Suzanne to the forensic details prosecutors believe prove intent. We're digging into what makes this case more than just a whodunit, because if the evidence holds, this wasn't a moment of passion. It was a controlled clinical takedown carried out by someone who knew exactly what to hit and when. And it started long before May 10th of 2020.
It is the most dangerous time for a woman to be murdered. And we have many decades of data on that. Most of the majority of women who are killed are murdered by a partner or a former partner. It most often happens when they're trying to leave the relationship. And clearly she gave a nice, clear message, and it was just a few days later and she disappeared. So another chilling story where she had communicated with her sister that he was physically and emotionally abusive. She had communicated with a friend that she didn't feel safe alone with him. So this is one we wish there would have been a way to intervene earlier. We like to think we can prevent these things, but it's another insidious aspect of, these domestic violence kind of relationships, these controlling narcissistic relationships. And it's horrendous.
It's one of those things where a lot of people, and I don't know what was going on through Suzanne's mind, but I think a lot of us, or pretty much all of us for the most part, like to think, well, it can't get that bad. It can't happen to me. I can't be a Dateline episode. That's a little much. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can be. And and you can be fairly easily. It doesn't take a lot to push someone with these sort of tendencies over a further edge to where this sort of thing took place. She sent the message on May 6, 2020. 3 days later, she vanished. Barry allegedly deleted that message, but saved the screenshot, which I find to be a little weird. What or maybe it's not. What do you make of that? Deleting the message, keeping the screenshot of the end of your marriage, and just a very stark, clear message of that.
That's a hard one to speculate about. The only thing that comes into my mind was this was carried symbolic meaning for him about why he was justified in taking the action that he took. It's like, here's a reminder to myself about why I needed to do this.
Do you think this is something where he's sitting there for those 3 days after she got that message sent to him, planning how he was going to do this? Was this more of a heat of the moment type thing? She shows back up to get some stuff, and then he's chasing her around the house, allegedly, with the dart gun. I mean, how premeditated do you think this sort of thing was, considering the evidence and stuff that he put up of like, well, here's why it couldn't be me. I mean, he pretty much walks investigators like right up to all the places he went and why he was there with really stupid excuses.
My guess is it was premeditated, and he may have been fantasizing about how he would get rid of her for a long time. It was a very, we can say, innovative method that once they found the body was pretty easily traced back to him as the only person in the vicinity that had that kind of poison. So, probably pre-planned, but not well-planned, we can say.
Let's just talk about the method itself. BAM. It's a rare animal tranquilizer found in Suzanne's bones. So he used this sedative instead of brute force or, a different type of weapon, a gun, that would be messy if you're firing bullets off. He used, allegedly, a dart, a tranquilizer, to basically get her and take her down. No mess. Just a body that now has been poisoned and is likely going to die. What do you take? What's your take on that? Just the method itself, avoiding the mess, avoiding all of that, and avoiding having to exert the physical, angst that a lot of abusers want to do on their subject. This was just a boom, she's down. There was no signs of struggle or broken bones or anything like that on her body when they found her.
Yeah, that speaks of pre-planning, right? And what he thought he could control and get away with. And he was a hunter, and he took down animals with this substance all the time. So clearly this was something that was in his wheelhouse. He felt very confident and comfortable with it, and I guess was good at hitting moving targets at the same time. So it's, another weird thing that none of us would normally think about something like this, but for this guy, it makes sense.
It's like there was a moment of evil clarity of, well, if I do this, there won't be the big mess, but everything else didn't seem to be thought out too well. Let me ask you about this. I mean, this is going to be going towards, if this goes to trial, if the jury gets it, there's going to be argument about the BAM itself, because yes, Barry had past access to BAM from his deer farming days, and I say that loosely, in Indiana. He was the only private person in the region known to have it. Now, we don't know for sure, because they didn't find any on his person or in his home at the place where this murder did take place, and the purchase of the BAM would have actually been a couple years earlier, according to records. But, he's an avid hunter. He's an avid guy that goes and rips antlers off of deer and leaves them to die, or lets them come back alive and rip them off again. He's a nice type of guy, He's a lover, not a fighter. And he just that whole mindset of someone like that, having it at the time of the murder versus just ordering it far early on. The fact that we didn't have it in the residence here this time, but they found the dart cap, or a dart cap. Is that going to leave some room for question of reasonable doubt if they didn't find the actual substance there? Again, not a crazy,
I would sure think so.
That he,
Yeah, I guess if I could put myself in the position of being his defense attorney, that would be the one big thing
Yeah.
to go for, is that you just don't have proof. But who knows? I don't think they know what was in all those trash bags he was throwing away either,
Yeah.
right? That would be lovely to have access to that.
Yeah.
What was he getting rid of?
Yeah, because that doesn't show anything weird when he's going to seven different trash dumpsters around the area, dumping something unique at each location. And his excuse is, I just like to do that because I don't like to pay the landfill fees. 7 dumpsters? Really?
7 dumpsters.
Were they all
yeah.
full and you just had to put you only fit a little bit in each one? It's a little odd. It looks a little suspicious.
It's also, if we could give all these murderers a tip, it's like, realize there are cameras everywhere now. It's like they don't seem to put that together. And how many of these things are the dots are connected because of film footage that we get. Yeah.
It makes you wonder. I mean, I don't know. Are people looking at the gas station cameras that are hanging outside some of these places and they look kind of, dusty, a little cobwebby? That probably doesn't work. And going with that, I don't know. I mean, they got to be telling themselves something, or they're just that ignorant and they don't think that part through. I don't know why one wouldn't at this day and age, but
that would be a good question to ask them. Did you ever stop and ponder that you were being filmed when you did all this? Yeah,
it's a good question to ask someone like that. If I'm ever, and I don't think I have, but if I ever do interview someone, a criminal who has gotten or attempted to get away with something, caught on camera, that's a very just basic, but an obvious one that I don't think they get asked very often.
No. If you watch BritBox, all the British detective shows, I like that channel, and they're all caught with CCTV footage.
Yeah.
I mean, in England, they would never catch a criminal if they didn't have CCTV everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe in England, they're more aware of it.
Yeah. Suzanne reportedly said she didn't feel safe being alone with Barry. That's a big thing. She's telling it to friends. She's telling it to people, but she did go back there to get her stuff. If someone is feeling that way in a relationship, that they still have all their stuff at the house, maybe don't go there alone. And I'm not trying to victim shame or anything here. I'm just trying to say people need to think a little bit more. This is kind of what I was at to earlier of, it can't happen to me. It can't.
Yeah.
It can't. Do people need to be more aware of how real these sort of things are and how common they actually do take place?
I think so. I think that's one of the focuses of my work, is trying to raise awareness of the potential for violent outcomes when women are trying to get out of relationships. And anybody who doesn't feel safe around their partner, particularly if there are ongoing marital problems or they're trying to leave the relationship, I would encourage them to contact a domestic violence hotline. There's a national, if you just put in Google National Domestic Violence Hotline, you can text them. It's a 24/7 service. A lot of communities have local domestic violence counseling services, just to have some support and get some tips on how to stay safe. That's one of the big things their counselors do.
And another interesting point of this whole case is that his daughters, who were close to both parents, it wasn't the marriage obviously was strained, but the relationship, from what we know, the daughters, they love both their parents very much. They were close with both, and they still stood by Dad after he was almost going to trial a couple of years ago. I don't think mentioned that portion of this. This is the second time charges have been brought against him. They were dropped earlier on because there was misconduct, they believe, on the part of the prosecution, getting late for deadlines. The prosecution, the actually original prosecutors, were disbarred. So that's a big thing there. But they still stayed with Dad, and that's the point. There had to have been red flags. There had to have been some sort of signs in that home of coercive control or something, growing up, that maybe things weren't the greatest with Mom and Dad. What's your take on this, that they still stand by him? Was just everything maybe too normalized that they just couldn't conceive of this happening? Or did Barry and Suzanne really hide it that well from the kids, that they really would think this is a complete impossibility?
They probably did hide it pretty effectively from the kids, but also kids that grow up in incredibly dysfunctional homes don't know that it's abnormal.
Yeah.
And they tend to not see things. And he may, in very many ways, have been an adequate father for them and have a bond with them. And, sort of like restricted his more pathological controlling behavior to his wife. And we do know that she suspected him of having affairs. She was having an affair, but all of this was very secret. And so the kids are probably at that difficult phase that we often talk about of just not being able to see that their father could be a murderer. It's just not in their reality at this point. So that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I can understand that. What makes the Barry Morphew case so unsettling isn't just the crime. It's the illusion on the surface. It looked like a devoted husband and wife navigating normal life in a picturesque town, but underneath was a decades-long pattern of control, secrecy, and an emotional silencing. Suzanne's final messages, her desperate "I'm done," weren't just the words of a woman exiting a marriage. They were a last stand typed out to a man who couldn't let her go, allegedly. And 3 days later, she was gone. What Shavaun helped us unpack today is that this wasn't random. This wasn't sudden. This was what coercive control could look like when it's camouflaged as normalcy. When the emotional violence is so entrenched that even the victim struggles to call it abuse. Suzanne's story is a textbook example of how control can escalate, how manipulation bleeds into surveillance, how psychological abuse calcifies into something deadly, and how a man who once sedated deer for sport allegedly used the same techniques to eliminate one person trying to escape him. But the trauma doesn't end with Suzanne. His daughters are left in the impossible position of loving a father who may have taken their mothers from them. They've stood by Barry through it all, whether out of loyalty, denial, or the inability to reconcile two versions of the same man. And that tension, that unresolved duality, is something survivors of abuse, children of fractured homes, and anyone touched by domestic violence understand too well. Barry Morphew's story isn't over. He's facing a new trial, new evidence, and a justice system that failed once already. But this time, the forensic trail may be stronger, the psychology clearer, and the stakes higher. Because this case isn't just about what happened to Suzanne. It's about how many other women might not speak up, might not be believed, or might not make it out if we don't start recognizing these patterns earlier. If you or someone you know is in a dangerous relationship, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at hotline.org, thehotline.org, or by texting START to 88788. In the comments section, tell me what your thoughts are on this case. Is Barry completely innocent? Was this all just a horrible series of strange coincidences, and he was just out hunting chipmunks? Or did he kill his wife? Like a lot of the evidence really weirdly points to. Circumstantial, though, yes. Give me your thoughts in the comments section. Love to hear it. And if you're not on our YouTube channel yet, please do check it out. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi on YouTube and find us there. And if you are there, you can get episodes in advance now when you become a paid subscribing member. A little extra for you there if you want to get in on that. We put tons of videos out, as you know, every single day, and there's plenty to be seen before they hit the public. So you can get on everything as we create it, more than we already do. So please do check that out. Until next time, I'm Tony Bruschi. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll talk again real soon.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.